What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Jay Gagan Show. My name is Jay Gagan. We're joined today by UFC middleweight Eryk Anders. Eryk, your boy, Anders is joining us, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I know you're in fight camp as well, so we really appreciate you coming on to talk today.
Man, it's my pleasure, man. It's you guys have a project that I too am really passionate about. So I kind of want to spread the gospel, if you will.
Absolutely. You're wearing the shirt right now, and I want to start by giving a quick shout out to 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗎. Thank you guys so much for all you do in the crypto space. Thank you guys so much for all you do in the UFC space and sponsoring this great weekend here at UFC 274 in Scottsdale. But I heard your name most recently. It was funny on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was cracking a joke because he's like, I love when Eryk Anders fights because Bruce Buffer comes in here and it cracks him up. He's like, Eryk, your boy, Anders. I know you heard that. I want to ask you, where does that nickname come from, your boy?
It's just kind of the way I talk, like, hey, come help your boy out, let your boy ball $5 or whatever it is. And there was a guy at the gym who was just kind of like mocking me and making fun of me, and it just kind of stuck.
I like that, man. So I know you have a big fight coming up here 2 weeks from today. We're going to touch on that in a second. I want to start by talking about 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗡𝗖𝗎. How did you first hear about the project? How did you get started? And when did that, sponsorship and promotion begin for you and 𝗪𝗪𝗛𝗎?
Well, one, just watching fights, you hear all these fighters who were fighting, talking about it. I'm like, what is this? And then a buddy of mine, 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, actually had a stem cell procedure that they helped him out with. And then I started to realize that they're helping these fighters out, financially. And it takes such a large amount of stress away from the fighters, so they don't have to worry about bills and stuff, and they can like solely concentrate and put all their time, effort, and energy into training for a fight, which puts on better fights for the fans to enjoy. So it's just a great thing what they're doing.
Absolutely, man. And fighter pay has been a conversation for a lot of people, right? You're seeing people like Jake Paul talk about it. Now you're seeing more fighters be vocal. Maybe Francis Ngannou, who's the heavyweight champion, fights. Maybe he doesn't. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, it's tough, right? Like when you're just getting started, and I'm sure you can empathize with some of these new guys. They're making $10,000 to show, $10,000 to win. You could probably speak this better than I can. You got to pay your managers, you got to pay your camp. Like, is it for the new fighters? I mean, is it a livable wage? I mean, what is it like as from your perspective?
I still had a job. I was still working at the gym through my first two UFC fights, and then I main evented against 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛𝗓, and then that's when I stopped working. But with the main event, my pay increased as well.
Sure.
So luckily for me, like I moved a little bit faster. But yeah, it's tough. Even if you fight and win and you make 20 grand, even in Alabama where the cost of living is so low, the average household median income is still 32,000. So it kind of like forced me to want to fight like 4 times a year. And it's, when you're young, you can do that. But, as you get older, like it starts to tax you a little bit. And so like for me personally, I would just like a flat rate. So, and then I think, fighters fight differently when they're fighting not to lose. So that they can make sure that they win and get their, all their money. But if you were guaranteed all your money, man, you'd see a lot more barn burners. You'd see a lot more exciting fights. And not that there's not that now, but man, if I get rocked a little bit, man, maybe I have to take a step back and let the cobwebs clear because, if I lose this fight, there goes half my money. So I got to do everything I can to make sure I get all my money.
Wow. So, I mean, would you like to see it, like just your personal opinion, right? Like Major League Baseball, they're paid a flat salary with bonuses, right? NFL, most sports are paid a flat salary with bonus. Would you like to see that instead of, let's say, 50 to show, 50 to win? Would you like to see it like, hey, it's $100K, like that's your salary? Or do you kind of like the fact that you can go out there and earn more money if you win?
I would like a flat rate and then a finish bonus. Like no matter how you finish, like, whatever it is, and I think like the value to the company is what dictates your pay.
Yeah.
Like Justin Gaethje, I'm sure he gets paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he's exciting. You see Justin Gaethje on the card, you're tuning in, you're watching.
Sure.
Because you know what he brings to the table. But I think, everybody should get a flat rate. What that rate is dependent on the athlete themselves. But if I get a finish instead of just 4 performance bonuses, maybe if I get a finish, whether it be a submission, TKO, KO, I get an extra 25 grand or 10 grand or whatever the number is. But I think the fighter should be incentivized to finish fights.
Yeah.
Because when you watch a fight as a fan,
Yeah.
you don't want to see like, point fighting. Man,
No.
you want to see blood. You want to see, people bleeding, and you want to see people get finished. So
100%.
you should incentivize the fighters to do so.
I agree, and I think we're early. Like, we're starting to hear the attention. UFC is pretty strict on it right now. They're like, we're not changing anything. If they want more money, go to another promotion, or they want to pay their fighters more, try it. That's what Dana White's saying, right? But I think as more awareness comes and more conversation comes, we might see it. And look, you're not saying anything bad. You're saying, look, as a UFC fighter, I would like to see us get a salary and then pay us to finish it, because you're more incentivized to go out there, get that big knockout, as opposed to, hey, half of my purse is on the line. Like, I'm going to try to play it safe. That's interesting. I've never heard a fighter say that until right now.
And also, if I'm fighting to win half my money versus to win a bonus, man, the fighters are going to fight differently.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, an extra 25 grand, 50 grand, or whatever the bonus is, I need that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out there and try and finish the fight, and, that it's going to kill the point fighting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that, man. I think we will probably see a lot of change coming here pretty soon. But I want to take it to your fight that's 2 weeks from today, May 21st. It's going to be happening at the Apex. You're fighting 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 Park. 𝗪𝗓𝗡. I told you I was going to mess it up. You're fighting 𝗪𝗓𝗡 in 2 weeks. You're 6 weeks or 7 weeks into your training camp. How are you feeling today?
I feel great. Feel rejuvenated. Usually about this point in camp, you're cutting weight, so your body's a little depleted, and you have a bunch of nagging injuries, bumps and bruises, normal things. But man, it's been a while since I felt this good at this point in camp.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'm rooting for you in that fight. I'm going to put some money on you, because I think that you're looking good, and I can tell your energy, like, you're very, very focused. But you said something interesting to me when we were eating a burger earlier. You go, I like to fight at the Apex. Like, you're fighting at the UFC Apex. For those that don't know, it's a crypto audience that's in their little bubble, right? There's like probably 50 to 200 fans. It's a smaller octagon. It's not in the pay-per-view event. They did this when COVID was happening. But why do you like fighting at the Apex more than a massive pay-per-view crowd?
Ideal scenario, they would bring the little cage to the pay-per-view events.
Gotcha.
Because, man, it's such a small cage. Like they say, fight or fight. You go out there, take one step, and you can touch the other guy.
Yeah.
So if you look at like the finish ratio from the small cage to the big cage, man, it's almost 3-1.
Really?
And it's because there's nowhere to go. It's hard to get on your bike when you get hurt. It forces the fighters to fight. And that's, kind of feeds into my fighting style.
Gotcha, yeah. And I really noticed it when I saw, like, Francis Ngannou fight Stipe. I was like, dude, that cage looks super small. But it's interesting to hear that the cage has that much of an impact on how you fight. Does it change your game plan a lot? And also, I want to know, fighting in front of a crowd, I mean, what does that do for you? Like, I'm sure you fought in front of a lot of people, right? Like 40,000 or 20,000, 30,000 people screaming. Do you like that more? Does it maybe amp you up too much, where maybe the Apex you can be a little bit more calm, or does it not have any impact?
I love the fans.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the roar of the crowd, after you knock somebody out, But the Apex is kind of cool because you can hear all the, And so I think, like, from a fan's perspective watching, he's like, oh, man, that hurts a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound very good. Pros and cons to both. But, I like getting there and fighting. I've lost a lot of fights to guys who point fight, like touch and go.
Yeah.
And it's extremely hard to do that in that little cage.
Absolutely, man. And I want to ask you a question, too. It's a little bit off subject, but we started the podcast by saying Joe Rogan. He was talking about you and your nickname, Laughing. I want to know, because I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I listen to his podcast. I think what he's doing for society is great. He's challenging the status quo. He's speaking out on what he believes to be true. As a UFC fighter, man, what are your thoughts on what he's doing, and the way that the media is trying to cancel him and put these labels on him? Like, what are your thoughts as Joe, as a person, and for what he stands for?
Man, I love Joe Rogan. I feel like he comes with a very unbiased opinion or, conversation. It's never an argument with Joe Rogan. He has like the world's experts in a particular field and has a conversation, is actually knowledgeable about what he's talking about.
Yep.
And if somebody says something like, "Oh, I didn't know that," like, okay, he can change his mind. He's not fixed on, his thought process or his opinion. And I don't see that. It's not so common today. It's like, this is how I feel about this, and no matter what you say or what facts you present, it doesn't matter. This is how I feel, and it just seems like he's not like that.
Yeah, you listen to his podcast, and it's like on the spot, he'll change his opinion right there when he's wrong. And not a lot of people do that. It's like, he always talks about it. It's like today in society, people have one thing that they believe and they stick to it. They join these teams, and it's like you do have to be willing to change your opinions a little bit and change your mind and take on other opinions.
Well, especially with like science and stuff, like new research, like when I was younger, nobody said anything about concussions. Now, they have CTE and all these concussion things, so you have to change the way you practice. You have to change the way the game is played, So if you want to ignore the science and the research or, just on this particular subject, these guys are getting so much bigger, stronger, and faster. Football players I'm talking about, man, they're going to hurt themselves, So you have to adapt the rules of the game to the latest research and tests and stuff that are being done.
Absolutely, man. And final question, because I know we're going to go to the fights here in a second. You talked about the knockout and the fans roaring. Look, I've never been in a UFC fight or any professional fight. What is that moment like when you land on someone's jaw, they go down, and the crowd roars, and you knock someone out in front of millions of people?
Man, I don't know. I'm kind of getting chills the way you just described that. There's just like no drug that you could take. There's no way that you can simulate that primal feeling that I think every human has, but doesn't have a way to like express, that, if that makes sense. And, I get to do it for a living.
Yeah.
So I think fighting is very natural. It's a part of human nature, animal nature. And I just think it's cool that I get to live in that, primal space a few times a year.
You got to do it, and you're going to get to do it again in 2 weeks.
That's right.
A big fight here. Make sure to tune in, guys, if you are watching this at home. I'm live with Eryk, ya boy, Anders, and I can't wait to hear Bruce Buffer call it. So Joe Rogan's laughing at home. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time. We really appreciate it, and best of luck in 2 weeks on your fight.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, man.